By day, New Braunfels is hopping and alive with all sorts of activity. Our charm, our people, our restaurants, our shopping, our schools, our historical districts, green and downtown New Braunfels, and our events and activities. But when the sun sets here in New Braunfels and darkness settles in, life comes to a crawl here. But if you listen hard enough, you may just hear the voices of restless spirits who really never knew how to say goodbye to New Braunfels. We're bringing you some of the most haunted places in New Braunfels. These are my top 6, but I want to hear from you. What are your spookiest hometown hauntings? Put your comments in the comments section below. And if you're new here to my channel, thanks so much for hopping on. Just hit that subscribe button because we're putting out videos every week about what it's like to live in New Braunfels during the day and at night. My 6th spookiest hometown haunting in New Braunfels is Naglins Bakery. Naglins Bakery is the oldest continuous running bakery in the state of Texas. In fact, in its 153-year history, only 2 families have owned this place, the Naglins and the Granzines. Ross Granzine gets here pretty early, well before sunrise, at a time when your mind can conjure up all sorts of stories about ghosts and voices from the past. Ross says that sometimes he hears kids running up and down the stairs of this 2-story building. In the kitchen and prep area, ovens can flicker on and off. All of these strange encounters without explanation. One time, a customer inside said a loaf of bread launched itself off the shelf at her feet. One of the workers inside said it was the work of Grandma Naglin, who was always trying to upsell customers when she was alive, always trying to sell them something. Workers say they've heard the Naglin children while prepping for the day. So the next time you're picking up a pastry from Naglin's, you may also be picking up voices from the past. My 5th spookiest hometown haunting is not too far from Naglin's. It's the Comal County Courthouse here in New Braunfels downtown. It's where Irene Nunn worked as a county clerk for almost 20 years until she was voted out of office during election year in 1982. Well, Irene grew so bitter from that loss, she refused to leave her desk on her last day here. In fact, it took a sheriff and 2 deputies to remove her so that the new county clerk could start her term. Irene died 8 years after her run as clerk ended unceremoniously. But her ghost, workers say, still haunts the county office. One former worker tells the story of an encounter with Irene. The worker said that she was in the restroom when Irene looked back and smiled. Another worker tells the story of when she walked up to the attic to file some papers and the attic light was on. Another worker here said he had a stack of papers one day on his desk he was getting ready to throw out, and all of a sudden the papers just flew off his desk without explanation, and he wasn't even near his desk. Over 30 years after her death, Irene is still making her presence felt at the courthouse. Number 4 on my list of most spookiest hometown hauntings in New Braunfels is Prince Salm's Inn in downtown New Braunfels. And if you plan on booking a stay here at the inn, you may just have to share your room with the ghost who haunts it. Theodore Egling built the Victorian-style hotel for his wife in 1898. It was first called the Comal Hotel. Not long after, the Eglings hired their first innkeeper, Penelope. Penelope was in love with a man and they set a wedding date. Everyone traveled to New Braunfels for the wedding. Everyone except the groom. It wasn't uncommon back in the day for natives to attack, even kill travelers. So it's very possible that Penelope's love died on the way to his wedding. As you can imagine, this left Penelope alone and heartbroken. Penelope eventually died in her hotel room inside the inn. One day after Penelope's death, a man pulled up in front of the inn on horseback. He ran inside, and the new innkeeper couldn't believe what she saw. She recounted that the phantom man ran to the top of the stairs and kissed what appeared to be Penelope's ghost. Then they both disappeared. That was 1920, but at least in spirit, Penelope never checked out of the inn. To this day, guests say they can hear Penelope knocking at their doors. About 9 years ago, a husband and wife checked into Prince Salm's Inn. As quickly as they checked in, they checked out because they said they were spooked out of their room. They claimed a woman walked into their room while they were sleeping, opened their drawers and threw all their clothes on the floor, yet there was no trace of the woman they claimed unpacked for them. The room, other than the husband and wife, was empty. In New Braunfels, there are spirits among spirits that are poured in a glass or come from a bottle. Number 3 on my spookiest hometown hauntings in New Braunfels is the Phoenix Saloon, where patrons and workers experience a whole different kind of nightlife. For years, people have reported paranormal happenings in and around the saloon. Doors and windows open and close on their own. Footsteps are heard on the upper stories late at night. Some have even reported seeing a shadow of a man drifting down the second floor hallway. Some speculate it's the restless spirit of John Sipple, who built this place, the Phoenix, in 1871. Now, Mr. Sipple, by everyone's account, lived a tortured life of depression and alcohol abuse after his wife left him for another man. Mr. Sipple eventually took his own life with a single gunshot in 1900. Others speculate that it could be saloon proprietor Walter Krause who's roaming the building. Mr. Krause died in 1895 from injuries he suffered in a barroom fight at the Phoenix. Whether it's one ghost or several ghosts, one thing's for certain, the ghostly spirits at the Phoenix are definitely adding to the flavor of the spirits being poured for the patrons. New Braunfels is an old town founded in 1845, and with old towns, you're starting to hear that old people stick around long after they've passed on, which brings me to my second most spookiest hometown haunting in New Braunfels, the Faust Hotel. The hotel opened as the Travelers Hotel on October 12, 1929. 12 days later, the stock market crashed and the Great Depression set in. But Walter Faust was determined to keep his hotel open. He called on his sons and their families to liquidate everything to help him keep the hotel afloat financially during the Depression. They helped out. One day in 1933, the sons walked to their father's room inside the hotel with good news in hand that their father's hotel was once again financially strong. But when they got to his room, they found their father dead. The ghost of Walter Faust haunts the hotel, with employees seeing him walking around. Furniture on the 4th floor has been reported by guests to be sporadically rearranged. Some talk about strange encounters with a turn-of-the-century man who walks into the elevator. Last year, during the pandemic, a front desk worker noticed the elevator door opening and closing for 5 minutes, but there was no one to be found. Other workers and guests talk about a young girl living on the 2nd floor, running up and down the hall in the middle of the night. But every time a search of the hallway turned up no trace of a child. Could it be the ghost of Mr. Faust's granddaughter who died at an early age, at the age of 4? Images, footsteps, noises, voices. The spirit world is nothing to mess around with, and either is my #1 spookiest hometown haunting. The story of 12-year-old Emma Voelker begins the evening of July 24th, 1874. Julius Voelker's family lived at a house in New Braunfels where today Saints Peter and Paul School sits. Julius was the town pharmacist and mayor of New Braunfels, a husband and father of 6 kids, including his only daughter, Emma. Julius made friends with fellow pharmacist Wilhelm Faust, who was a traveling pharmacist and staying at the Magnolia Hotel in Seguin. While Wilhelm traveled, the Voelkers welcomed his wife Helena into their New Braunfels home. On July 22, 1874, Wilhelm, who was in love with his wife's sister, traveled to the Voelkers' house to kill his wife so he would be free to marry her sister. He rode up on a horse with an axe in hand. Usually when Helena stayed with the Voelker family, she slept on the floor in Emma's room and Emma slept on the bed. But this night they switched. Emma was on the floor and Helena was on the bed. So Mr. Faust unknowingly attacked Emma on the floor and killed her instead of his wife. Helena was also hit with the axe in a blow that would blind her for life. 1 year later, her husband, Wilhelm Faust, was convicted of murdering little Emma Voelker and sentenced to life in prison. He was shot and killed through the window of his prison cell in 1876 by an unknown gunman. The spirit of Emma Voelker is said to haunt downtown New Braunfels, near the site of the family's now destroyed home and current school. Children and staff at Saints Peter and Paul have witnessed a little girl skipping around in the halls or playing in the bathroom. They say Emma dances everywhere she goes. Fitting, because Emma was a dancer right up until her grisly murder. In New Braunfels, our hometown hauntings don't wait until Halloween to appear. It's year-round here. Well, there you go. You've heard my top 6 spookiest hometown hauntings in New Braunfels. Now that you've heard mine, what are yours? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you're thinking about moving to New Braunfels even after you've heard all these ghost stories, I'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can email me, you can call me, or you can shoot me a text, and I promise you, I won't ghost you. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.